I'd like to introduce to you my symbol when I was a child of adulthood. When I was growing up, everyone had in their trunk this chair or some version of it. And so I felt like that's what I had to have. That was an adult. Everybody's got a lawn chair in their trunk. It's an instant party. We always called everybody up. Are you coming over? Bring your lawn chair. One of my strongest memories of a lawn chair like that is sitting with my grandfather in my backyard, breaking up sticks. The sticks lived in a pile. They never really went anywhere. But it was sitting with him, being completely supported in any thought that I had. I want you to imagine, what are the things that make you, you? What's the essence of yourself? Is it your career? Is it the career you're aspiring to become? Is it the career you're pivoting towards? Is it music? Is it art? What if all that went away? What is that thing that is you? In the beginning of my cancer journey, I don't know why people call it a journey, it's like, where are you going? But that's what we call it. So in the beginning of my cancer journey, I'm sitting in the office with my oncologist who I had chosen, and I interviewed oncologists, so I had met lots, and I had chosen this particular oncologist. And we're going through what's going to be my treatments for bilateral synchronous breast cancer. In real words that we all understand, that means both sides, synchronous at the same time, breast cancer. And he says, okay, so we're going to start it with this surgery. We're going to do bilateral mastectomy. We're going to do a bunch of stuff in the middle, and we're going to have another surgery at the end. And to me, that was like a sandwich. Surgery, surgery, stuff. So I focused on those surgeries because the bilateral mastectomy took the visible thing away that made me, in my opinion, outwardly, visibly female. And then the bottom of the sandwich was the bilateral salpingo oophorectomy, which is very musical sounding to me. It's like somebody needs to write a song called bilateral salpingo oophorectomy. And that means we're taking out your ovaries and your fallopian tubes. And he says this also nonchalantly, and I looked at him. So basically, you're making me into a fixed cat. And he folded in half with laughter. And then after he popped up, he said, why? Because being a man would be so bad? Well, I didn't consider myself a man. So being a fixed cat was somehow funnier and better? So that's what we went with. But he emulated and he gave me the reminder in that moment of why, one of the reasons I had chosen him to be my oncologist. I needed him to go from high-level MD, PhD land to meeting Jenn where she is with her wacky sense of humor. And he did it seamlessly. He spoke to my humanness. It was no longer about, oh, I'm so sorry we're doing this to you. It's like, yeah, we're turning you into a fixed cat. Bilateral mastectomy comes, and I'm in the PACU. And at the hospital that I was at, that's the post-anesthesia care unit. And it's a really important part of your recovery because you need to be able to breathe on your own. You need to be able to, your blood pressure needs to be even and monitored. Heart rate needs to be monitored and even. And after a 6-hour surgery, you can imagine that the coming out of anesthesia takes a little while. Looking at the ceiling, I realized I woke up. And when you wake up from surgery, it's really as basic and simple as that. I woke up. But then I realized I was in pain. And I realized I can't get on top of the pain. And I looked at the nurse who was sitting right here, and I said, I need pain medicine. Can I have some pain medicine? No, you can't. We're waiting for your room to be ready. Okay, and I go back. And we're starting this cycle. And in the world of pain management, we know that pain causes anxiety, causes pain, causes anxiety, causes pain. So we're in this spiral, and I know we're there, and typically I can get it out, and I can break free, and I couldn't then. So I asked her 45 times. I don't know, could have been 3 times. Time's not really linear when you're waking up from anesthesia. I need pain meds. Can I have pain meds? She was always so calm. No, we're getting your room ready. Okay, and I'm trying, and I know I'm stuck. And I'm a performer. I don't get stuck. I know how to get out of it. So I changed it. It was no longer a question. It was a statement. I need music. Well, that's the other part about me as a performer. I don't listen to music in terms of recording here. There's always music in my head, which I admit's a little weird, but there is all the time. And it's usually better than what I'm hearing on the radio. That's why it's there in my head. But I couldn't get there. I couldn't get my music in. I need music. She pulls out her iPhone. She was so present and so mindful of what she needed to give to me. What do you want? Start scrolling. I really want some Beethoven. Got any Beethoven? Most people don't know how to spell Beethoven, so I don't have any Beethoven. I can't find that. Okay, what do you got? I'll take anything. Just, come on, get me out of here. Reggae, I got reggae. I'll take reggae. Give me some reggae. Pulls up the reggae, puts the phone right here in the bed next to me, in the bed with me. Behind my head are the electronic monitors of all of my vital signs, because that's what she's monitoring to make sure I can get to my room. Puts the phone in. She looks at me. Your vital signs just dropped 20 points. Even in my loopy state, I knew that there was research to back this up. I knew that it existed already. And it turns out there's a study in particular that talks about not a certain type of music that drops your vital signs and decreases the stress hormone in your blood, but it's really any music save for one type, not Beethoven. The one type that doesn't decrease stress hormones in your blood is New Age music, which is exactly what I wrote in the margins of the study when I read it. Ha, ha, ha. Because every time I go into a spa, which isn't very often, granted, but every time I go into a spa, what are they playing? New Age music. The whale sounds with the instrumental tracks on top. It drives me bananas. And I had research to back up why it drove me bananas. That in itself was awesome. If you love New Age music, it'll work for you. That's the whole point of that study. The music that you love works for you. It's not just Mozart, it's not just Beethoven, it can be Metallica. Whatever works for you. I'm now ready to go to my room, but there's a problem. I've got a phone, it's not mine. I can't move my arms, that's part of surgery after, My escort to my room, this amazing barrel-chested baritone singer, sang to me the entire way from the PACU to my room. Because if he hadn't, I would have started on that path again. And he was brave enough and strong enough to be present with me and sing me up. So we get to my room, and he makes sure that everybody else who's in the room knows, you gotta get the music on because this girl needs it. But we wouldn't have gotten to the me needing it part and him singing me through the hall if it hadn't been for that nurse who was present and centered with me and spoke to my humanity and my personhood, not just as a patient, but my personhood. She started it. So we get there, we've got the reggae going. I love reggae, but I can only handle so much of reggae. So we went back to Beethoven. We got the iPhone going again, we're in the room, and I started to realize that people were coming into my room who had nothing and no connection with my care. They weren't on my list of caregivers, but they were coming in anyway. The nurse passing by heard the music and would come in and tell me stories about how she took piano lessons when she was little, and then where the piano was in her living room, and how her sister played the same piano pieces too. Conversations that had nothing to do with me as a patient and everything to do with me as a person. She wasn't the only one, there were so many. All of this care that I was given, if we unfold it, there were pieces of hospice in there. Traditionally, hospice starts when you have 6 months or less to live. If you've ever experienced a family member or a friend going through hospice, hospice is an amazing thing. It's beautiful. Suddenly your house is full of people who are trained to support you in being a person aside from your disease, although we're recognizing that you're in the ends of your life. Sometimes prior to hospice care, there comes palliative care. And we define palliative care as being that type of care which happens, or you are offered, when you have a life-limiting disease or a life-limiting injury. I submit that life is a life-limiting disease. We're not getting out of here any other way. Palliative care, hospice, I wasn't on either of them, and yet I got them from centered, mindful, beautiful people who just supported where I was. In the land of pediatric medicine, we have these people who are amazing, called child life specialists. And their job as a child life specialist, if you go to the hospital as a child, you get this, sometimes, if you're lucky, you get to ride a scooter to your, from the waiting room to your exam room, or you get to ride a Segway, or you get to play with Legos. So the child life specialist reminds that child what it's like, that, oh yeah, you're still a child. You still have these things in your life that aren't your disease, which are you. Also, the child life specialist will help sometimes and talk to teachers and kind of keep that conversation going with what's happening in school. Well, I propose that we need this in adult life too. We need to call them quality of life specialists or whole life specialists. Quality of life is definitely part of care, but we usually put it off to the side like, oh, how's your quality of life? Well, I'm here. Which, if you think about it, that answer, well, I'm here, is really pretty negative. Because you're here, but what else are you? Let's wrap that quality of life conversation from the moment of diagnosis so that it becomes supportive of the person as a whole. So that then, when we're talking about pain management, and we can help to break that cycle sooner, which decreases the perception of pain and possibly decreases the dependence on opioids and those types of pain medicines. Which possibly, if we're focusing on people's humanity and their love and the things that make them who they are, we are allowing the opportunity for that re-entry post-treatment to be a little more smooth. Because we allowed you the opportunity to remember who you are. This is what happened to me for that surgery. It didn't cost my insurance company anything more. It didn't cost me anything more. It didn't cost the hospital anything more. but I felt valued and loved in that space. In the same way that I felt it when my grandfather would, sometimes without me, sit in our yard and break up sticks with me into little pieces. I don't know where the sticks went. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know what we did with them, but it was the sitting, it was the being supported, it was the life-affirming connection with him. So let's build this into care. Let's make it part of the standard of care for cancer patients, for all of us. Thank you.